the first thing I want to ask you about is motivational speaking. How did you get into that, right? Because you started off joining the Marines back in the early 90s. And, how did you segue from that into the public speaking
Mark,
arena?
in 1991, I went to Desert Storm at 19 years old. And first of all, I don't wish combat on my worst enemy. An experience that in my life was I'm actually writing a book about it. But with that being said, I got back, and a good friend of mine from the Marines, Lance Corporal Zayas, calls me up, says, "Hey, I got a call from my niece's school in Miami Lakes, Florida, a Catholic school, and they want to bring all the veterans in to speak to the students at an assembly." I'm like, you know what? That'd be pretty cool. He goes, "Hey, can you wear your dress blues? I'll wear mine, and we're going to be there with other military branches." I'm like, all right, sure. Show up. So the first Army guy goes up and speaks. There's a Navy guy there, and they have me come up and speak. And after I share my story, what the experience I went through in Iraq and my combat experience, all the kids stood up, Mark. And as they stood up, they all started clapping. And I mean, they just went crazy. And I was like, wow, it kind of took me back because I remember being a public speaker. Well, not really a public speaker. Speaking in school, is one of the worst things that most people fear, dreading public speaking. And I remember speaking at times in school, reciting the Declaration of Independence. We had I guess, a project, and I remember my cheeks just shaking and my whole body just, shaking. But the thing about this speech was it came from my heart. I
Mm.
shared and I told them what I experienced and how it made an impact. And these kids just stood up and going, crazy. And then my buddy looked at me and goes, "Man," says, "Ab, you got a gift." And I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, man." So he goes, "All right, the next speaker." He goes, "Anybody got questions?" And he turns around and looked at me. He goes, "What am I gonna say?" After your speech, And we laugh. We're still friends today, and that really started the speaking career in the sense of people say, "Hey, I heard you went to combat. Would you come share your testimony at our church, or would you come to our school? Would you come to career day?" And as the time started building up, as years go on, you start writing more notes and things that went well, and things that the crowd really received and real engaged. And as time went on, I say from a motivational speaker now, I say an inspirational speaker.
Mm. Awesome. Well, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this discussion, I also just want to say thank you so much for your service, man. I mean, anyone that's willing to go to war and go into combat to protect me and to protect my children, I have an immense amount of respect for you, man. So thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate that.
For your
It's
support.
huge service. Um, so that kind of segues me into another question that I have for you, and in that, going into the service and going into these high risk situations, um, how do you separate your responsibilities at home, being a father, being responsible for your loved ones, your family, but also putting your life on the line to protect them overseas as well? Do you find that to be a real challenge, and how do you cope with that?
Mark, currently I'm a firefighter lieutenant for the City of Hollywood Fire Department, and I've been there 25 years. So every single morning, or I work 24 hours, and then I'm off for 2 days, and then I go back to work for another 24 hours. So while I was in combat in 1991 in Desert Storm, I wasn't married. I didn't have kids yet. In 2003, the initial push to Baghdad, the 54-day march up, I was not married at that time, so I didn't experience that family separation of wife and kids. But being a firefighter for the last 25 years, being married to my wife 15 years, my daughter is 14, and my son is 9. So obviously, every third day now we experience me leaving
Yeah.
and going for 24 hours. So I turn over the house to my wife and my kids. And I kind of joke with my son, he's 9, and I look at him and I say, "Austin," I said, "Okay, daddy's going to be gone for a full day, 24 hours. If I leave on Monday morning, I'm coming back Tuesday." I said, "You're in charge now. You're the man of the house." I said, "Make sure you pray with mommy and Naya, your sister, and, lock the doors at night, and, do all the things that you see daddy do every night." He goes, "Yes, daddy. Yes, daddy." He's excited. So with leaving the family every day. I mean, it's a job. You know, you think about firefighters, police officers, anybody in this service, that when we leave that door in the morning, our family, we really don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to come back. Of course, I ask God, and every night when I pray with my family, I ask God that He protects me and my fellow firefighters and police officers, that we do come back. And one of the things we say at lineup every day is, we're going home tomorrow. Because we think about September 11th, those men and women that woke up that morning and went into the buildings. They went there to save lives, but leaving that morning, when they said goodbye, they didn't know that it would be the last time they would say goodbye to their wife, to their kids.
Right.
So it's interesting sometimes, Mark. Even when I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to bother my kids, but sometimes you know what? I want to wake them up and just give them a big hug before I leave. I know I'm coming back, but just let me, I'll go wake them up at 6:30 in the morning and say, Daddy's leaving, and I'll give them a hug and a kiss. But that's the separation that I deal with my kids now in the fire department, but not obviously with the military. But there are a lot of military members that go through that, and that's really tough, man. To be gone for 8-9 months, over a year of deployments, that's difficult. I think
I
24
find
hours.
that,
Go ahead.
yeah, well, I find that so compelling and so interesting to think about. You're not only are you leaving your family for these periods of time, but
Mhm.
you're putting yourself in very dangerous situations, right? And so to me, there's a lot of stress, and you're not just, because one of the things that I find, when I became a father, is it's not about me anymore. You kind of shift your lifestyle from being selfish to being selfless.
Yes.
Um, and then then you're separating it to a third degree by not only being selfless, by providing for your family, but also being selfless by putting yourself in harm's way, potentially. Even being a firefighter, right, you have to potentially be in dangerous situations. And I just think that's a really compelling thing that fathers like you are able to do, are able to, um, pass the torch of leadership to your children, to your son, what have you, while you go off to help others, right?
Yes, definitely.
That's really cool. And I also think that as fathers, it's really important for us to be able to instill confidence in our kids, right? And so you just gave us a pretty good example of that by putting all things aside and just diving in and giving them a hug, waking them up early. What are some other ways that you have instilled confidence in your children?
You know, Mark, a couple of years ago, I was asked to go speak on Father's Day at a church and bring forth the Father's Day message. And a lot of people, I told them, hey, I'm doing this podcast with Mark, and he was going to talk about fathers. And I told him, my father was a good man, but he really didn't grow me up. Because, well, you need to share that, because I said, well, I don't think that's a good idea. He goes, no, you need to let them know that just because your father, and mom divorced and were separated, and really I didn't get to grow up with my father figure, and then I was split between, divorced family, you were still able to change and still a father for your kids. And I said, you know what? I didn't think about it that way. So though I went through that, growing up in New Jersey, and my mom and dad split, I was in third grade, and it was very hard for me. I didn't understand a lot of what was going on, but I said, you know what? Though I didn't say, I would say some of the things, I'm going to make a difference. And what I did was I ended up writing 5 things that make a great father, and I believe I shared that with you. And that was one of the things that that I think is important. And the 5 things, and I'll break them down. The 5 things are: number one, a father's a protector. Number two, he's a provider. He's a promoter. He's a priest, and he's a prophet. And then just to think about a protector, a great father is concerned about the well-being and making sure that you're safe. That's number one. You
Right.
know, little things that you do for your kids, and you speaking into their lives and telling them, about safety, situation awareness, their surroundings, where they're at. Every night, I even though a firefighter, I got new windows, and we got hurricane windows, and I show my son and daughter, okay, if we need to get out of the house and I'm not home, let me show you. All right, click this button, click this, push the window. We got big sliders. So literally
Sure.
this, and it's like a big thing. So those little things about explaining that when they're when daddy's not home, that they can be able to, but understanding is still, I'm a protector for them. And, that it's key. Number two is a provider. A great father adds value to you. It's not always about money. And he shares what? Knowledge. He shares wisdom, friendship, insight. I think about today, I went to the VA hospital and I was registering. And my son says, "What's this, Daddy?" I said, "This is the VA hospital." "What's VA?" I said, "Veterans." So he knows what a veterans is because, I'm a veteran. And
Yeah.
then I asked him a simple question. Well, what wars can you think about that we might see some people here? And he's thinking, and he says, World War II. I said, yeah, we might see. I said, they'll be 96 years old. So here I am, just, that moment, I'm able to share that moment with him. And I'm just sharing knowledge and insight. And we start talking about World War II, and we start talking about what these men and women did on D-Day, December 6th, and how they liberated, France and the men and women in those countries. And he just looked at me and he was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so we walk in, he's looking around. He goes, "They have a hospital just for veterans?" I said, "Yeah, they do." I mean, he was just fascinated. So, I was just sharing, value. And I think something like that, I don't know, he might share it with somebody else. So I think that's important. The next thing I tell you, you have to be a promoter. And it's not about it's not always about in a sense about yourself, but it's about others. It's about lifting up others. A great father's gift is to make others look good. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And
mm.
and that promotion, is I always say this in the military too. A lot of things that I've gained in life were from the military. And one of the things I heard a long time is promote in public and rebuke in private. If you have
I
an
love
issue,
that.
son, or yeah, I'm glad you do, man. Take it, man. Take it with your kids. If you got an issue with your son and daughter, when we get back home, we're gonna talk. Don't do it in front of public. You know.
Well, and that's also, I think, a really important thing to take when you're handling disagreements with your spouse or your woman. You really don't want to get into these major conflicts in front of your kids, right? Because you want to promote your partner in
Yes.
public, right?
You want to lift her up, and then behind closed doors, hey, honey, we need to talk. There's a
Yeah.
situation. And I agree that definitely you can cross that over as being a father to being that promoter in front of the family, and then celebrate them, but also when it's time to rebuke, to do it behind closed doors, one on one. And like when I talk to my son and I look, son, I'll give him a hug and tell him, hey, I love you, and we'll go through that whole thing. The next thing is number four is a priest. A great father is a priest of his home. I believe a prayer life is necessary, and the lack of prayer probably your biggest sin. And every night we pray. And if I'm at the fire station, my wife calls. If I'm traveling on the road, if I'm speaking, we were in Phoenix at a conference, and I was with my wife. We called back home with the kids, and it's a ritual that we do, and we do it in the morning too. We do. I'll talk to you about the bullies. How I have a series on how to handle bullies and what I do with my kids every morning. But you know, pray over their lives. And the thing that I love is like every once in a while, I'll say, okay, Austin, you pray tonight. And then Naya, you pray. And then you start hearing them pray. You're like, wow, that's pretty powerful, just to hear their words, because they learn from us, and
Right.
then they remember. You may not remember everything you say at night, but when you hear them say, you like, they're listening. You may not think they're listening, but they're listening, good and bad. When you're saying things out your mouth.
Yeah.
Next thing is the number five is that you're a prophet. The father is a prophet. Why? Because a great father needs to speak to his children. He needs to always remind them that. And I do this with my kid, my son and daughter. I'll share it now. I was going to get into that later, but I say, Naya, Austin, we're driving to school. The great thing, I live in Plantation. They go to Nova, and we have it's about seven. Yeah, it's about 7 miles away. So we got about 15, 20 minutes. And every morning we do the same uh, ritual, in the sense of, I say, Nye Austin, repeat after me. I'm a winner. And they go, Daddy, I'm a winner. I said, I'm a world changer. I'm a world changer. I am somebody. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. I'm bright. And we do a laundry list of things that just come in my head. I'm anointed. I'm blessed. I'm the head, not the tail. I'm above, not beneath. And I just speak into their lives every day. And it's interesting thing, Mark. Here I am. I'm sharing this story because I do a talk on leadership, ethical leadership, and I'm in front of a very large crowd. And one gentleman stands. We always have a heckler, which is fine. He stands up and goes, "That doesn't work." Because someone is always there's always going to be there's always going to be someone a naysayer. There's always and it's okay. You write something on Twitter and someone says, yeah, whatever. You write something on Facebook, you write something on LinkedIn. There's going to be that one person that's not going to agree with you. That's part of life. They didn't agree with Jesus, right? But anyway, he tells me that doesn't work. So I said, stand up, sir. Don't sit down. Because now he interrupted the flow. So I asked him a simple question. I'll just use for tonight, for example. Today's Thursday, and I'll ask you the question, Mark. Mark, did you eat breakfast on Tuesday? Tuesday, did you eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner at any time?
You know it.
Yeah, okay. And Wednesday, did you have any of the three meals or snacks?
Sure did.
And today, did you wake up hungry at any time that you're like, damn, I can't wait to eat?
Oatmeal. That's right.
So I could say to you, you know what you had on Tuesday and Wednesday didn't work. It
Oh.
didn't because you still woke up hungry. And
Mm.
that's the thing. That's the thing. You know, you have to speak into your kids' life and tell them who they are.
Mm.
Like I said, you're a world changer. You're the head, not the tail. All those things. And a great father tells them what they can be and what they can become.
Well, I really like the way that you articulate this. And I was speaking to another dad a
Mm-hmm.
couple weeks ago, and one of the things we were talking about is how to empower your kids, right? And so something that's really common for dads like myself do is say, "Son, I'm proud of you." And he said, "Well, you don't want to tell your kid that you're proud of them. You want to instill them to be able to say, 'I'm proud of myself,'"
Yes.
right? And I thought about that, and it sounds like you do that too with them, with these positive affirmations that they're saying
Yes.
daily to say, "I'm a winner, I'm a fighter, I'm a," all these different things. So I think that's really positive. I've actually started to implement that a little bit into my parenting strategy, if you would,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, when you incorporate those things, you speak to their destiny, not their predicament. And the key thing is also one of the things I teach is one of my series is how to handle a bully. And
Yeah.
how do you handle a bully? You handle a bully, Mark, by knowing who you are. The outcome. I usually say this at the end. It starts with you because
Mm.
if you know who you are, then it doesn't matter what anybody says. So my daughter's at school, and a kid looks at her and says, "You stupid dummy." Does she get mad? Does she cry, get emotional? Does she turn around and punch him in the face? No. She smiles at him. And what we say is anything that's positive is green. So we do a model of green and red. So anything that is green is someone that is positive, kind, friendly, tactful. They have initiative, good leadership traits. They
Yeah.
apologize. Those are green leaders. And when I do my leadership, I kind of incorporate this on green managers and how they should treat their employees. And then we talk about that red manager or the bully, the one that's red, the one that has the virus, right? If you're sick, Mark, and I may come into your office and you're coughing, you say, "Don't come in, I don't want to get you sick." And that's what a bully is. A bully has a virus, and basically when they start to speak their words or physically abuse you, verbally abuse or anything, they have a virus. And when those things happen to you, if you let those things affect you, then it's gonna really, it's gonna turn you red. So in an instance, if someone goes in your face, and you see this all the time, they'll road rage, or someone in the at Publix, trying to get the same lane, and they fighting for whatever to go first, and someone will say something into their life, and then the other person immediately hears those words and they get right back in their face.
Yep. Well, you see it on social media every day. People get triggered by what someone says on Twitter, and then before you know it, you spend a half hour just spewing anger, and nobody feels better about it,
Exactly.
right? Everyone feels worse.
You're right. So what happens is when someone speaks into your life, if it's negative and you get mad at those quotes, that means you believe what they're calling you.
Mm.
So you have to understand as a father, when you speak in your child's life, that you're building them up when they are going to be dealt with a bully, that they don't get mad or angry because the bully's calling them a bad word or, the N word, and they get all upset. No, They're not going to get upset because they know who they are. You see, how do you handle a bully? You handle a bully by knowing who you are. It starts with you. If you know
Yeah.
who you are, doesn't matter what anybody said. Don't matter if you're in the Dolphin locker room and you're 6'5", 300 pounds, and the other guy's 6'4" and he's 280, and he calls you a name and you get all upset and you're like, oh, you hurt my feeling. No, man. You know who I am? I'm an offensive tackle for the Miami Dolphins. There's 32 teams in the NFL, and there's two people in this position. That's 64 people in the entire United States, 350 million people. You know who I am? I am and you got to know who you are. You know who you are. You know what? Nobody can touch you. Nobody can touch your kids if you speak those words of affirmation. No one can touch your wife. Nobody can touch anything. You understand? People speaking to get you upset, to get you mad, to get you angry, and some people do it on purpose. Like, oh, watch this. Watch. We're gonna call Johnny something. Hey, Johnny, this, and whatever they may say, and then they start laughing. Yeah, we got him. We got him, because they get frustrated. And that's what it is. It's so simple. You handle a bully by knowing who you are.
And I mean, it can be really hard. It's so hard in this day and age, especially I think as fathers. There's just you look at fathers in the media and around any sort of entertainment type of situation, and the fathers are never the heroes. They're the doofuses. They're the mess ups. They're the guys that just don't get it, that are past their prime. And I think that message is seeped into not only our culture as a whole, but into fathers. So I really like the idea of words of affirmation, just waking up for a couple minutes in the morning and saying, hey, I am great. I am strong. This is knowing who you are is
Yes.
a really powerful way to combat that.
Yep.
Are there any other tactical or practical tools that I could maybe implement to emphasize who I am, to find out who I am as a father, right?
Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of the stuff from the Bible. I'm a Christian, and look at the word. Our Father, right? The Lord's Prayer, what they call the Lord's Prayer, but the key word is our Father. Just those two words. When you think about those two words, right? First of all, our, you can't say like this, closed arms. Immediately when you say our, you have to open your arms, because when
Mm,
you're talking about Jesus, he's our father. It's not just my father, but he's your father too, Mark. So he
mm.
opens his arms. And when you say the word father, as a child, when you look at your dad, your father, you always look up to your dad. So in two words, our father, we have the cross. In two words, where everything began. And if you know who your father is, if I know my father, my heavenly father, right, then I know that I'm not a bastard child running around wildly. I am, he's the king. I'm the prince. He's the king of kings. I am somebody. I am, and when you start understanding who you are in Christ, man, watch out.
Yeah.
What do you say? Anybody that tries to speak in your life, you don't know who I am, man. I'm
Well,
blessed, I'm anointed, and you share that same things with your kids. You let them know, hey, you are somebody, and that positive motion. I mean, it's important. Go ahead, Mark. I see you.
well, I mean, I'm just kind of thinking through this, and that type of logic makes sense to me.
Sure.
I've really been fascinated by the numbers and what happens to kids that don't have access to their
Mm-hmm.
fathers,
Yes.
right? They end up looking elsewhere to find answers to their problems, whether it's gang leaders or terrorists or various other just really bad ways to go, right? Um, and so I guess by having a father who you can look up to and provides you that moral high ground, that path, not only is it important for kids, but I could see that makes sense for fathers too. You have to know who you are, and so that's another great way. I think just connecting yourself with the community and with, like you said, your heavenly Father. So I think that makes. I think that's a positive thing also. 100%.
Definitely, man.
100%. So I'm just kind of breaking down these five things you said that every father needs to be: protector, provider, promoter, priest, and prophet. And it strikes me that not on that list is friend, right? You don't have to be your kid's friend, and I believe that pretty strongly, that we as fathers need to be role models, right? We're not the boss, we're not their friend, we're role models,
Mm-hmm.
right? What would you say to that, is as far as have to be a role model? Do you think that's important, or do you think it's more important to be a friend? Where are you on that scale?
Well, I think what happens today is that the kids, a lot. Let me see, kids. Adults try to be their kid's best friend. You know,
Sure.
I'm your friend. I'm cool like you. They still need some type of direction, some type of order. You could still be, this like today when I was talking to my son, I still had a good time. We were walking side by side like friends at the VA hospital, but yet he still knows that I'm his father. That he
Yeah.
understands that. And I think once you try to be a friend, and maybe sometimes friends will be like, oh yeah, go ahead and do that. Don't worry about it. You can get away with that. Or, you know, I think
Yes.
you lose that understanding, and then they get comfortable, and then you'll see some maybe at the supermarket or something where a kid will yell back or curse at their mother, and I've heard horrible things. Or
Yeah.
daddy says you're stupid, because they're divorced, and they start acting out what they saw in their dad, and they don't respect. And once the kids lose respect for their parents, I think that's when you're going to start having trouble. And we see it in you go on TV, right? People love what? Trauma, or I say drama creates trauma. So when
That's
you see,
interesting.
go
That's
ahead.
interesting because you're right. We're kind of drawn to that drama, and like you said, that kind of being around a red person inflict, kind of spreads that, and we're almost drawn to it in a way as humans. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of trauma that falls off on the back end. I work with a lot of dads who are in bad situations, and it's so hard. It's
Yeah,
so hard to overcome the the problems between the husband and wife or the male and female. It's just so hard, and the kids get end up caught in the crossfire there, you know.
definitely. I mean, I speak. I go to homes and speak to kids that are, foster kids and stuff like that don't have fathers. So I think giving back as a mentor, and trying to make a difference is important. I volunteer for the last 10 years with the Freedom Foundation. We take 100 kids to Valley Forge. We teach them about leadership, but we speak into these kids' life. Most of them have parents. Most of them parents are divorced. But if you can be that other role model that they can see, men in leadership, and when we do our trips, we equal as many females we do as many males. We try to give them that balance, understanding that everything has a balance. You know,
Yeah.
it's great if you have 10 female volunteers, but if you don't have any role model, male, you got a lot of female role models, which is great. But if you're missing the male, so what we do in our organization is we balance it out, one for one.
Mm.
If I got 5 females, I'm having 5 males. We want them to understand, because there's certain things that a mom can only understand as being a mom, and there's certain things that a dad, and both of them synergistically make it complete.
Right.
If you just have one, you're always missing that you're not balanced. If you only have that male and no female, it's the same thing. So it works hand in hand, definitely.
I've been really fascinated by that too. I think that there's this lie that's been propagated by society that you can get away with one parent, but man, when you've got both the mom and the dad working harmoniously or
Yeah.
co-parenting, the numbers speak for themselves. You have a kid that's generally speaking going to be more well balanced.
Yeah.
So you'd brought up a point earlier, in just kind of the way I could tell you're very disciplined, you're very well thought out about how you parent, and I'm wondering how much of by being in the Marines, how much of that has rolled over to your parenting style and it impacted the way that you parent?
Well, I don't treat them like we're in boot camp. I would scare them.
So,
Understand, people say, do you ever yell at your kids? Have I spoken up? Yes. See, there's a difference between yelling, and there's a difference between speaking loud. My son Austin one day was running across the street, and as he was running, there was a car coming. I spoke up loudly, Austin, watch out! Because
right,
he didn't see the car. So I
right,
needed to get his attention to warn him about the car. So that's one way. It's another thing when you speak up and belittle and break down, because when you start to speak into your child's life and say you're nothing, you're stupid, you're dumb, and then they start believing this as well. My dad believes I'm dumb. My mom thinks I'm worthless. Then might as well just what? Might just end it all right now. That's why you see kids that they don't know who they are, and they'll get on social media, and someone will be typing on the keys, tap tap tap, kill yourself, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're this, you're that, and before you know it, they start receiving those words, and they got no role model, nobody there talking to them. Yeah, my mom says I'm stupid. My dad says I'm ugly. Now I'm getting multiple emails of people telling me end it, and then they commit suicide.
Mm.
Ultimately, it's a breakdown in the family, which starts in the home, and then the social media is another type of what we call cyberbullying. There's their verbal bullying, there's physical bullying, there's cyberbullying, and it's horrible when you read that a 14-year-old female just killed herself because she was online and everybody told her end it all. And that's a lie straight from the enemy. And I in one of my chapters, I'm writing a book. I have a thing called HVT. So, Mark, what I tell one of the things I learned in the military in the 30 years is as you study, you learn about what's called a high value target.
Mm.
So one of my chapters in my book is called HVT. Stands for high value target. And a high value target is someone that is basically the brain of the operation. They are think of anybody, Osama bin Laden, think of Saddam Hussein, think of anybody who was a dictator or someone that you say, well, this person's a bad person and we really need to take him out. Hitler, Stalin, Castro, anybody that is doing really bad things. Understand? So I flipped it in this chapter and I changed it. Well, you're the high value target,
Mm.
Mark. I'm the high value target. Why am I a high value target? Why are you high? Because anytime in your life, I'm 49 years old, and in my life, I've gone through ups and downs. We all go through ups and downs. It's part of life. It's like a roller coaster, right? We got ups, we got goods, and we got bads.
Yep.
But the key thing is that when the thought comes in your mind, Mark, to end it all, throw in the towel, pull the trigger, take the pills, to whatever you're thinking about doing, that means the enemy thinks that you are so valuable that they want to take you out.
Mm.
They want to take you out because they believe you're going to make it. So if the enemy believes you're going to make it, Mark, how much more do I have to believe? So every time the thought comes in my mind, I get excited now because I know, you know what? I'm right here, and my breakthrough might be my next step, my next day, tomorrow. It might be something, and if I end it, I'll never reach that potential.
Mm.
This year in February, I mean, for some reason, I was going through a tough time. 8 9 people died around me. There were some things. Everything was going chaos, and the thought came upon me, and I said, no, I said, God, somebody wants to take me out. I'm the high value target, and I got excited. And when I got excited, 2 days later, I got called up to go speak at a conference in Phoenix. I've never been to Phoenix, Arizona, but I got to go speak at a conference in front of amazing people. And I would have never reached that potential. I would never be on your show today if I would have did that. You may not have a podcast if when you were going through your situation, Mark, you may not be here. But you see, there's more for you. There's so much.
That's
You think of this little platform of a podcast, this is the beginning. Man, this is going to be worldwide known all over the nation. And God is going to bless you tremendously in such a way that you have no idea. So every time when you go through that situation, remember, Mark, just get excited, man. You're a high value target. The enemy believes in you. I need to believe in me. And I mean, jump for joy. You need to jump for joy. When things like that come in your life, that's what you have to understand. So with that in my life, I just started writing, man. That came in my heart the other day, and about 35 minutes, I just got on the keyboard and I started typing. I posted it on LinkedIn and I just wrote it, and immediately like 30, 45 people wrote, oh my God, this is something I need to hear. And you start hearing people giving you feedback. You're like, man, if I would have ended, they wouldn't. Who are you touching today? Who are you impacting? What life are you making a difference? There might be was one thing that we share on this podcast today, Mark, that someone somewhere is thinking about suicide, that's thinking
mm.
about throwing in the towel, but they're hearing the words that we're talking about today, and they're saying, you know what? I'm going to make it, man. There's more for me. There's more for me, and there is more for me. There's more for you. This is we're in a. I mean, I think we're in an exciting time in life, man. It's just what's going on and what's happening. It's like a fire. I'm ahead of myself. I'm so pumped up of what I see happening and what's gonna happen in your life and my life. And I'm happy that we connected, man. And I think we're just going to continue to do more things and greater things when we meet and get together. And I know we met through a mutual friend, Bob Sutton, and also through LinkedIn. But man, social media and people I love people. People are
It's
amazing, and it's just great, man.
it's
Sorry, I
really
got
powerful.
a tangent there, man, but I'm just pumped up just thinking about that high value target.
I really love that for a few reasons. A, it re-emphasizes the point that you need to know who you are, right? You need to know who you are because there's always going to be voices trying to get in there and plant seeds of destruction in your brain. You have to know who you are first so that you can protect yourself against that because you're right. You are valuable. I mean, if you're a human being, you have value. If you're a father, you have a lot of value because there's a lot of people that require you to be there. And that's really powerful. And the second thing is that I've never heard this kind of like this way of thinking about it. So it's really interesting. I'm still kind of processing the high value target concept. It's really interesting. And it's also something that we don't really talk about.
Yeah.
Very rarely are people talking about, man, I'm so depressed. I'm just like, I'm done with it. But you see it all around you. You see it all around you. I mean, Anthony Bourdain, and I mean, I could list probably 10 people here. It's just like people who have it all, but they let the thought creep in, and they like it the best of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Think
a
about
real
think about all the great people that I remember sitting down one day and I said, man, it's a horrible thing that Elvis Presley died. And they go, Elvis Presley's not dead. I'm like, he didn't die? I thought he died. The next day he died on
wow.
drugs, and I'm like, wow. And then I thought one day, man, horrible that Lucille Ball died. And then the next day she died. I'm like, wait a second. I hope I'm not speaking prophetic words. And then I'm thinking, man, I really like this comedian. He's on Saturday Night Live. I can't remember his name. He was a real funny comedian. Um,
Farley? I
Farley.
just oh
And
no.
then he died of drug overdose. And I'm thinking, man, this is horrible, man. These people's lives were short.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Jackson. I was flying. I booked my tickets that morning to go to London to go see one of the 50 concerts. Believe it or not, I used to have curly hair, and they used to call me Michael Jackson back in high school, in middle school anyway. And here I am, and then that afternoon, I'm like, oh, I hear the news. I got sweaty eyeballs because Marines don't cry. We just get sweaty eyeballs. But horrible when you think about people that died before their time. I saw the movie of Freddie Mercury the other day. Queen, and I just looked at the talent of this young man, and just the lifestyle choices. I was like, I love music, and I just think of music, how powerful it is. When I was in Iraq, I would listen to music, and how it would make it was an escape for me.
Yeah.
Going to you're it's almost like receiving mail. I always tell people, if you guys a military member deployed overseas, write them as much. That's a lost art, right? We don't write no more. We just text, or we little messages. Get a pen and paper and write them, man. And that same thing, when I listen to music, or when I got that letter and read it, it took me away from all the chaos, and it just brought me in. But
I love
it
that, man. It's this it's sometimes it's the simple things or just telling someone that I like the way your shoes look. It's sometimes it's the simple positive things that you send out that can just really make a difference in people's lives. But I mean, just the fact, I mean, the thing that I really love about what you're doing and what you're talking about is all about self-empowerment. And to me, based on our discussion, what that really comes down to is knowing who you are.
Yes.
And do you have any other tips or tools for knowing who you are? We've talked about a few. Anything else that you do daily that helps? Do you find routine maybe to be an important part of knowing who you are?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it comes down to a routine, and I think I think when you do it with your kids and you see them light up and sharing it. When I was in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Human Resource Convention, I'm a certified SHRM speaker, so Society of Human Resources SHRM. So my leadership talk is certified through SHRM. So the good thing is that when I when I get a call from a conference and they know I'm certified, I can speak about leadership and ethical leadership, and I'm able to share these things with corporate, with managers. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, if you're a leader, a lot of people have not been taught leadership,
Right.
and they get in positions of leadership and they have no idea what they're doing. And they think, they think, oh well, I need to yell and scream and you know, I was sometimes I got to be careful what companies. I don't like to talk about people's name, but think about Texas, and the new CEO came in, and it was a female, and she thought that the proper way to talk to her employee was cursing and yelling. You know what? Immediately she lost a lot of senior top people. Top
Mm.
staff is gone. They say, I'm not. I've been here, 30 years. I'm not. You're not going to come in here and start disrespecting me. You know what? I'm going to retire. The company will crumble. You'll ruin the organization. But talking about, I'll share this. I share on 4 blind spots of leadership, and
Okay.
that's one of my. It's on one of my PowerPoints that the 4 blind spots. I would say there's unknown to you and unknown to me. That would be the first one, and that would be the blind leading the blind. So I usually share a story. When I was in Iraq, the army came by. God bless them. I got a lot of friends in the army, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but it was the army. Middle of the night, they got their lights on. I see them coming. I'm like, oh man, what's going on? It's like a Christmas Day parade. You know what I mean? And they get up to us, and they said they were lost. And I said, first of all, I asked them, hey, what is that in that computer? They go, that's a Blue Force tracker. I'm like, what's that? They go, it's a GPS. And I literally come out and say, well, I'm going to use my phone as an example. I was like, I got my compass and I got my map. And that's all I got. And I didn't get lost. But later on, I was watching some news channels, and there was a story about the Army unit and Jessica Lynch. And they said, yeah, we ran into the Marines, and they didn't tell us where to go. So when you think about the blind leading the blind, ultimately, it can create problems in combat.
Mm.
So there's a saying that there's a book. There's actually a book called Leadership Blind Spots, and I think it's Karen Bakley. I think she's the author. But one of the things that it says, leadership blind spots are unproductive behaviors that are invisible to us but glaring to everyone else. Our behavioral blind spots create dire and unintended consequences. It says they corrupt decision making, reduce our scope of awareness, they create enemies, they destroy careers, and sabotage business results. It says in good times, blind spots are annoying and frustrating. In tough times, they can be lethal. So
Mm.
think about the blind leading the blind. Man, in a combat situation, that's lethal because you don't know and I don't know, you know, and unknown, that's an unknown blind spot. And then we got the other one is it's known to you and known by others. So think about this is the open arena. A lot of companies, organizations, they know that that person shouldn't be in position of leadership. For example, this is my son, and he's going to take over as he's going to be your boss. I'm going to say, Mark, I'm going to use you. Mark, this guy's going to come in, and I'm putting him in charge of you. But this is what I want you to do, Mark. I want you to train him, but he's your boss. What? So he knows. You're laughing because you
That'll
probably see.
work.
He knows that he doesn't know, and he doesn't know, but we still do it. We do it every day in corporations, Fortune 500 companies, and that's an open arena. It can be deadly. I mean, just putting a person in position because they know somebody but they don't know their job. And
Yeah.
I've seen that time and time again where people say, "Well, can you train this person? They're taking over your job, but you're going to train them." So I'm not good enough but you want me to train? Okay. And then you have the blind spot, known by others but unknown to self. So I always use a scenario when I'm speaking in front of the crowds. I use 2 different scenarios. One of them is, say, Mark, I'm going to go speak in front of thousands of people, and say we work together now and things are going well. But for some reason lately, I've gotten really red, right? I've gotten arrogant and look at me, look who I am. You got to probably bring me back down to earth. Hey, we got to talk. Hey, you know, be humble. You know what I mean? Humble beginnings, right? We got to remember that. But say I'm going to go out and speak, and you say, I got to talk to you. I got to talk to you. And I'm like, Mark, I gotta go. Don't you see? I gotta talk in front of, and I just gotta tell you one quick thing. You're like, get out of here. I gotta go. And I go and speak in front of all these people, and then I come back out and I say, Mark, what did you want? And he goes, man, I just wanted to let you know your zipper was down. Unknown to,
Unknown,
but
unknown to
known
you.
to you. Now remember, as leadership, there's times that things are unknown to me, but known to you, and you share them, and I get mad. You know what that means? There's another thing I teach it, and you probably heard it. It was a movie. It was a big line in the movie. Tom Cruise, he said, "You can't handle the truth." You know, with Code Red, he goes, "You want the truth?" He goes, "Yeah, I want the truth." He goes, "You can't handle the truth." And a lot of times people say, "I want the truth," and you tell them the truth, and they get angry. They don't want the
It's
truth.
hard. It's hard. I mean, I manage a small office, and I know there's shortcomings that I have, right? But
Sure.
a lot of times I don't want to hear them. I don't want to hear about them. It's really hard to absorb that. It's a real it's I think everybody struggles with that to an extent because you need to
Sure.
know who you are, but you need to be self-aware enough and have an inner circle that's able to give you constructive criticism. And I think it's
Instruct.
something that a lot of people struggle with. A
Yeah.
lot of dads struggle with it too. I ran a poll the other day. I had about 400 people answer back, and I said, "Hey, what did you do to prepare for fatherhood?" And about 85% said they did nothing. They didn't read a book. They didn't listen to. They did zero. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you're about to embark on something you've never done before. It's the stakes are high. You're going to be dealing with it for the rest of your life, and you didn't even watch a video on it.
Yeah.
It's just to me that's a big blind spot there.
Oh yeah. Well, Mark. Let's do a conference with the dads in South Florida. Let's do a dad. Uh, things to prepare you to become a better father. How's that?
I'm all about it, dude. I mean, that's what Active Dad's about. Active Dad is all about making it exciting and making a brand that dads can connect with and say, "Man, I want to have that connection with my kids. I want to be fulfilled. I want to take these steps forward and be an active part of my kids' lives." That's something I'm really passionate about, and I can tell you are as well, just by the way with that we've chatted here. And I love some of the ways that you some of the tactics that you are using to empower your kids and teach them who they are. And they are definitely some things I'm going to apply to my everyday parenting style as well.
That's great. You mentioned that, and I was talking the other day, and someone says, I'm using what you shared with my kids. I'm like, that's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
when you hear somebody, like I said, if it's just one thing that I'm able to share, you know, I think that's great.
Makes
And
a difference, man. It
yeah,
makes
yeah,
a difference.
100%. The last and final blind spot is the one. I do like a survey with when I'm speaking and when I have time, because sometimes I speak for 45 minutes. This training can be from 9 to 5. It could be 9 to 12. It could be a 2 hour training. It could be a 45-minute training. So obviously, when I do my 45-minute training, we do less interaction and less surveys. But I'll ask them out of the four blind spots, and the last one we didn't talk about was unknown to self, meaning unknown to me. And did we mention that unknown to you? Yeah, we talked about that one, unknown and unknown, right? Um, Oh, well, the one we
Yes.
didn't mention was the one is unknown to you but known to me, and I really don't like that one. I was speaking in Utah and somebody says, "Oh yeah, I like that. That's fake it till you make it." I believe 100%. Yeah, you don't know, I don't know, so let me just fake it till I make it. I think about there was an incident one time in the Marine Corps, and there was a guy teaching a compass class, and he's talking about all these different things about the compass and the different settings, how to true north and magnetic north, and he's saying, and he says something, and in front I said, wait a second, that's not right. And then one of the younger Marines, a lance corporal, been in the Marine Corps probably less than a year, said, Sergeant, you said this. I think and he said it tactfully. He didn't say you're wrong, this. He said, hey, I think you may have made. And he goes, the sergeant, instead of admitting it, what did he do? He goes, I
Double
knew,
down.
I was just testing you.
Yeah.
Now they know that the guy looked bad, man. He was faking it till he made it. And instead of being, you know, owning it up, saying, you know what, you're right. I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I said that wrong. Thanks for letting me know. Yes, everyone, this is the correct way. That's a humble person, man, and it's just that's how we have to be as dads. We have to be humble, but yet, we still have to be able to understand that we make mistakes. We're human. If we didn't make mistakes, they wouldn't make pencils with erasers, right? They would
Yeah.
just.
If you're
But
not making mistakes, you're not doing it right. That's
no,
for sure. The most successful people are the people that have made the most mistakes.